Okay, so a few days ago, seemingly out of the blue, Piggy Book 3 just came out of nowhere. And when I played it, I was so blindsided to whether it was actually for real or not. But unfortunately, I guess it isn't. Maybe it's the premise of the chapter, or the complete lack of any enemy bot, or maybe, most likely, the fact that it was released on April Fool's Day. On top of that, they had just released their first teaser for Piggy Intercity, which is set to release this year. And Piggy Book 3 would just overbloat the Piggy release schedule. Despite that though, I'm gonna be going over this chapter as if it wasn't an April Fool's prank. So yeah, let's get right into it. So essentially the chapter goes like this. The player wakes up and realizes that they need to pay their taxes. So they go around the house doing chores, which by the way is the gameplay without any bots. But the thing that takes the bot's place is the very short amount of time you have to complete the chapter. Anyway, by the time you complete the chores, the player remembers the password they use for the computer that they file their taxes on. So the player logs in and files their taxes, but after the player finishes filing their taxes, they start to reminisce on the days with the Safe Place group. So he contacts this other player character called Miguel, who hesitantly helps the player character to go back to the place where the Safe Place group are. Anyway, as for lore aspects about this chapter, after the events of Book 2, the player moved to a different country and got a job there. But this country has banned traveling to the country that the player was in Book 1 and 2. And by the way, the country that the player was in during Book 1 and 2 is called Evalia. But anyway, the player also got a request from someone called Captain M. Stone, who I'm calling it right now might be a Piggy Intercity character, who requested the player to go back to Evalia, and if they refused to come back, their position as a police officer would be terminated. Anyway, something very interesting to know about this other country that the player is in during Book 3 is that it implies that the only place with the infection is Evalia, implying that the country that the player moved to does not have the infection. Also implying that the infection isn't entirely a worldwide thing. Anyway, something else to point out is that there's just another human who's probably also immune to the infection. Anyway, as for other details, this was the Book 3 menu. There weren't any new skins or pages. There's a pickle skin that jump scares you when you try to equip it, and the player kept a note from Doggy. And yeah, that's the Book 3 Chapter 1 April Fool's chapter. But another aspect that I'll just briefly talk about before I end the video is that the player and a few other characters got trapped in Tio's illusion realm, which might imply that this whole chapter might have just been an illusion. But we'll have to see where the player's story goes from there. Make sure to like and subscribe, and bye!